Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel Floor, Executive Director of the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation, and on behalf of all of my library and foundation colleagues, I am just so delighted to welcome all of you here to the Kennedy Library tonight and everyone who is watching our program online. Before we start, I just want to remind people to silence your cell phones. As the only presidential library in New England, we take great pride in holding events that strengthen democracy, increase civic engagement, and inspire public service. We are so glad to have you here, and we're so grateful for the New England Patriots Foundation for their collaboration on today's program. Special thanks also to Mass Vote for joining us this evening to assist with voter registration. Tonight's program is presented as part of the Kennedy Library Forum Series, and I'd like to acknowledge the generous support of our underwriters, lead sponsor Bank of America, the Lowell Institute, and CVS Health, as well as the Mass Cultural Council and our media sponsor, the Boston Globe. Our Kennedy Library Forums fostering civic participation are also supported in part by AT&T and the Boston Foundation. To open, I humbly start with a land acknowledgement to recognize that the land on which we stand was once stewarded by Indigenous peoples. While land acknowledgement is not enough, it's an important way to promote Indigenous visibility, and it serves as a reminder that we are on stolen and settled Indigenous land. I invite all of us to contemplate how to better support Indigenous communities and to learn how to honor and take care of the land that each of us inhabits. In 1963, in an address to the nation on civil rights, President Kennedy said, "The right to vote in a free American election is the most powerful and precious right in the world." No one knew the importance of every individual vote more than President Kennedy. In the presidential election of 1960, he won the popular vote by one of the smallest margins in history, less than 120,000 votes out of a record 68.8 million ballots cast. And we know that President and Mrs. Kennedy found time to vote absentee from the White House in 1962 because we have the actual receipts in our archival collection. And speaking of our archival collection, we have a few really cool special archival items that are on display in the lobby outside of the room for you all to see after the program. Just a couple of highlights. Among other items, in one of the cases, you'll see a selection of letters written by Americans urging the president to take action to protect Black voters who were faced with violence when trying to register to vote. There's also a telegram from baseball legend Jackie Robinson urging the president to take stronger action on civil rights. In another case, you'll see some items related to football and President Kennedy, including a National Football Foundation and Hall of Fame award, as well as an autographed football from the Western Pro Bowl team, including Vince Lombardi. The football was presented to President Kennedy, who, as the team said, only knows too well that our greatest victories are born of our worst defeats. And on your way out, on a case against the wall leading to our museum store, you'll see a letter to President Kennedy from what was then called the Boston Patriots Football Club. It says, "Since you were a great pass receiver on the Harvard Touch football squad, you might be able to assist your favorite football team, the Patriots, to a successful season. We are desperately in need of fine receivers and wondering if you would desire to fill the bill." However, they joked, we would not want political influence. The letter ends on a more serious note, inviting the president to come watch one of their games. So there are tons of cool items out there. I hope you'll check them out. They're really special objects from our collection. And I'm now honored to introduce tonight's speakers. I'm delighted to welcome Josh Kraft to the library this evening. He is the president of the New England Patriots Foundation and is responsible for the Kraft family's many philanthropic initiatives, including the Patriots Foundation, the Revolution Charitable Foundation, the Kraft Center for Community Health, and the family's participation in the Reform Alliance. Through these programs, the Kraft family annually contributes tens of millions of dollars in support of education, health, social justice, diversity, youth development, and family initiatives. I'm also so glad to welcome Marisol Santiago, Director of Policy and Organizing at Mass Vote, to the library this evening. Mass Vote is an organization founded in 2001 to fight for political, racial, and economic equality. Their mission is to increase voter turnout, modernize election laws, and engage the next generation of leaders. The Mass Vote team is on site today right outside this room and ready to assist anyone here in registering to vote. It's also a pleasure to welcome Erin O'Brien, our moderator for this evening. Erin is a professor of political science in the College of Liberal Arts at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, with primary research interest in voter access in the United States, women's political representation, Massachusetts and New England politics, and the ramifications of student loan debt for political participants. She is the author of 3 books and co-editor of the brand new book, More Than Blue, More Than Yankee, Complexity and Change in the New England Politics. And I know we're all super excited today to have a member of the New England Patriots here tonight, just rolling in the middle of the night or this morning from London. A huge thanks to Keon White for joining us at the JFK Library this evening. Keon played college football at Old Dominion and Georgia Tech. He was drafted in the second round of the 2023 NFL Draft and plays defensive end for the New England Patriots. Please join me in welcoming our special guests.
Hello, let's get some energy. Yeah. So I'm really excited to be here, as I know the fellow panelists are. I'm a big fan of a moderator who does not take over because he didn't pay to come see me. So I'd like to jump right into it. I want to start with why we're here tonight. Civic participation is a priority. And Josh, I'm going to start with you because you're on my left, okay? You're president of the foundation, the Patriots Foundation, and there are no shortage of important issues facing New England, facing the country. But yet you picked, amongst others, civic participation and political participation. Why?
Well, I think one of the most important things, and Rachel mentioned it when she was talking, we're all lucky to live in a democracy, and whether you agree with everything that goes on in our democracy here in the United States or you don't, it's still one of the greatest places to live in the world. And what makes it great and sustains it and builds it every day is the right that each of us has to vote. And we think it's so important because it's a privilege to vote, because there's a lot of places where individuals and normal citizens do not have the opportunity to vote. So it's what really separates us and sustains democracy here in the country and the equity that comes with democracy. So we felt like there's nothing more important than letting people know that exercise that privilege and that right to vote.
As a political scientist, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, Keon, you are having a breakout season. I'm going to brag on you because he's here, okay? 4 sacks, 30 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Yesterday you were in London, right? You're here tonight. And more seriously, that shows a real commitment to this cause. A lot of players understandably would say, no, I'm going to rest. But yet you chose to show up. Could you talk about why civic participation, political participation, especially amongst young people, is something that you're willing to come out for on a Monday night after a big game?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely something that's very important, especially coming from a background that I come from in my community. I hear a lot of times that people feel like their vote doesn't matter or doesn't affect change. And I feel like people need to really see and understand how powerful their singular vote is on the local level, on the state level, and even on the federal level. And I feel like by doing events like this and showing people who look like me that things like this matter, it gives them opportunity to see themselves in me.
Seems like you're walking into the role model well. Yeah, really. Marisol, The mission, I love the mission of Mass Vote, and it parlays nicely off of what Keon just said. You're trying to increase voter participation in Massachusetts, especially amongst underrepresented communities. On one level, that is the most nonpartisan thing ever. On another level, we know historically in the United States how hard certain groups have had to fight so hard to exercise the franchise and the privilege of it to the point that was made. And we know today that many states are making it harder for individuals, harder for groups to vote. So my question to you is, why is this nonpartisan? Right? Why is civic participation? You're explicitly nonpartisan. Please talk about why it's important to get registered, to turn out regardless of your party identification, and to tell others regardless of their party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that question. So I think just sort of piggybacking already what we've heard, that democracy is all about the people shaping policy that impacts our everyday life, and politics, just like Keon said, we often hear that, right? That people are like, politics is not my thing, or they shy away from the process. And so nonpartisan work is essentially just talking about, like, fundamentally what is accessible, what is our right to every human being, right? And that is understanding, how does government work? What does your city council do? Talking about the number of state reps in the state house and the Senate, the differences between local, state, and federal representation. And I think, like, we live in such a rich country that people come from every part of the world. And so their experience with politics is often something that they bring. What was it like in their country, or where their family's from? In this case, what state, right? Also like an example. But I often bring that up in saying that Massachusetts has done incredible work through policy in making democracy strong. And so those are tenets that I think we have to protect as well, right? Like, people understanding how can you be part of that process and seeing yourself in that process and being empowered. And so that starts with, one-on-ones, that starts with, general education. That is nonpartisan, right? It has to be nonpartisan. Party, for folks that are active in different parties, that is their choice. But I think first getting an understanding of, like, where these things live, within our worlds, and people feeling like they can actually access it is really, like, a huge cornerstone of our program.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you for the work. And to replug, there is voter registration here tonight. Yes. If you're not, so if you came to this and you're not registered, come on, right? So you need to do that for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching sports and politics this semester, and Dylan, Camilla, Matt, I got some students here. So I have to do that angle. And, but more seriously, Josh, one of the great things about the Patriots organization and the foundation is the way New Englanders love it, regardless of demographics, regardless of party. I grew up in Ohio. I'm an Ohio State fan, OH. And, you go to the Buckeye games, and you and I never met. We're hitting hands after a touchdown. And we've talked about it in class. There's something beautiful to that does not happen in American politics. Indeed, the opposite happens. It's demonization across difference. It's unwillingness to talk to another side. It's trying to keep some groups from voting. So I wonder if you could talk about how sports actually, and the organization, the foundation, has something to teach those of us in American politics. What lessons from sports can be brought to the American polity?
Well, I think the number one lesson, and you just hit on it, was and I would think back in June, whenever the Celtics parade was, that's where you see real unity. And, I've been lucky enough to be at Patriots parades. I know soon Keon and I will be at one in the next couple of years. But as you're going
That's right.
down the parade route, you see anyone and everyone, whether it's the race, ethnicity, socioeconomics, you don't know, but there's a whole mix. Who people love, whether they're LGBTQ plus or whatever, everybody is out because the barriers are broken down in celebration. And that's what sports does. It's one of the few things that truly unites everyone. And within a community, everyone can agree on that team like we want.
That's
And
right.
it breaks down those barriers, and you see it on parade routes. You know, it's interesting. The only other times you see it is if, unfortunately, if you're watching CNN or Fox, whatever station, when there's a tragedy, a hurricane or whatever, you see all mix of groups out supporting, whether it's loading sandbags, handing out water. It's the same thing. So I think when there's celebration, fun, sports, or when our community needs to come together, the barriers are broken down. Unfortunately, and as you said, the demonization of politics is...
Why do you think your organization can do that so well, but we can't do it in politics? What can we do better?
I guess that's a great question. I would say respect. I think one of the big problems is in politics today is if someone disagrees, then the other person just completely shuts down and turns their back, which that's no way. If you really want to move forward, you've got to listen to someone you disagree with, express to them why, and then respect each other's opinion, and then you're going to move forward. But if you just demonize, as you so well put, or just shut down, we're never going to move forward as a society. So.
Kian, I want to follow up with your perspective as a player, an active player. We had a guest lecturer in my class last week who's the offensive coordinator at Davenport University, and he was saying how, you know, how beautiful the locker room is, or can be. And you certainly know guys play different places, certainly different political views, college rivalries, other demographic differences, on top of the fact some of you are fighting for the same position, but you're all coming together to try to win. How do you do that in sport, and what lessons do you think we can take from that, which you're doing daily, into politics?
Yeah, so football is a real interesting sport, in being that a lot of us come from different places, being like most of them are offensive linemen that come from different places than me, or specialists, but
There's no alignment from Ohio.
yeah. So, but being able to come together to reach a common goal allows you to have access to different perspectives. And I feel like that's a true value that we miss out on in politics today. And a lot of people try to surround themselves with people who look like them, who think like them, and who talk like them. And so therefore they have very polarized views because their worldview is so small. And so I think that in order to have a more complete democracy and more total democracy to encompass everybody's views, you need to reach across the aisle and talk to somebody who has a different perspective. And we do it in our locker room. We have political conversations all the time. So we say, and then we talk about policies that are going up, how things work all the time. And it's good because a lot of times I'm talking to them and saying, like, how could you think this? How could you view it like this? And they're telling me their perspectives, and I understand when you come from a certain background and this is all you've seen, why you have this view. And so now I see it more as not somebody who's an enemy who's out to get me, but as a person who was maybe not exposed to the same experience that I was. And those are things that I feel like need to be in place in politics. And I feel like we need to start coming together more to achieve a common goal instead of just achieving nothing and feeling like the other one is winning.
Yeah. And how do you do that though? Like and I mean that so genuinely. Like you just had a heated conversation, or maybe not. To your point, like you actually listened, and then you go out on the field. It's a microcosm of America that doesn't exist.
Yeah. So you have to be able to disagree with somebody and understand that they're not your enemy. And so that's one big thing, like especially with football. Like a lot of times, even yesterday, heated conversations on the sideline, but understanding that you're still achieving a common goal, and relating that to politics, the common goal should be the betterment of American citizens. And so I feel like a lot of times in politics, we have politicians that are not so much interested in the betterment of their constituents, in the sense of there's a lot of policies that they could take action with today. Easy politics. That would be easy votes that they just choose to not work with the other side of the aisle. And I feel like that's not beneficial to anybody.
Yeah, if you're not talking to the offense or defense, things don't go well.
Exactly.
Right? No, that's very hopeful. Marisol, I know I promise I didn't come at you with sports and politics. That would be unfair because you have on-the-ground expertise. And I'd like to pitch maybe a little bit. We're here in Massachusetts. Hopefully you all knew that, right? And, you know, in Massachusetts, our entire delegation, congressional delegation, is blue, meaning, you know, all Democrats. Our state house is hyper-partisan, or hyper-favors, supermajorities, I should say, of Democrats. 1 in 10 Massachusetts residents identify as Republican. Now, that's a little misleading because most identify as unenrolled. But my point is, it is a blue state, okay? This was a purposeful color, okay? We are at the Kennedy Library, after all. But what do you say to a voter in Massachusetts, Democrat or Republican, who says, the die is cast? Here in Massachusetts, don't turn out. I used to live in Ohio. That used to be a swing state. That mattered. I lived in Virginia. That mattered. But why turn out here in Massachusetts? Because, you know, I'm not in the betting business, but I'm going to make a big, big prediction that Massachusetts goes blue. You heard it here first. So what do you tell to a voter like that who just says, hey, my vote doesn't matter because this is a single-party state?
Yeah, we hear this all the time, for sure. And I think I just bring it back to, you know, something I think that I was thinking about when Keon was speaking, back to the issues and back to policy and the impact. So I often ask people, like, why are you voting? You know, what is motivating you? And tell me more about why you care about this election, irrespective of parties. When folks do literally make that statement to me, I will share that, you know, I'm sure some folks probably heard this before, that there's been conversations whether Massachusetts is turning more as a purple state. But your data is correct. It is technically right.
Technically, I love that.
But what I've witnessed, you know, I give a lot of respect to mentors that have been in this work way before me, and that's something that I share with our young people and people in community. But what we hear a lot is, like, there's moments that come and they're here, right? And we are grateful to witness them. But if anything time has taught us anything, is that things do change. It depends the will of the people and what is the vision of change that they have. You know, just hearing, you know, Erin talk about the civil rights movement. When I sit with young people, I'm like, where do you place your story in this timeline? How do you see yourself as part of this legacy, right? And what does it mean for you? So, like, we can talk about data, we can talk about the stories, we can talk about, you know, our predictions, which I agree. But at the end, you know, people, sometimes it's sort of like a nuance about how we're inspiring people to be part of shaping that outcome, and what is the story that they want to make with their votes, right? As someone who's been fortunate to be part of campaigns where we elected the first of firsts, right? The first Latina in the city of Lynn, the first Latina in the city of Salem, the first Black governor, in communities like ours where they're looking for more diverse representation, or someone that, you know, inspires them with their personal story. But all that said, it took the will of the people. It took, you know, a fight, a desire, like, you know, something that they believed in collectively. So, like, if it's through a campaign, an election, or policy, I always come back to, at the end of the day, what is the story that you want to, like, leave? What is the why for you? Because that is, right, a vote is personal. A vote is your voice. As much as we see the collective data, we have to bring it back to the individual, because it does shift things, and it can shift things.
It's almost like you've been doing this a very long time. I like that. A vote is personal. I will borrow but give credit. A similar question to you, Josh. One of the things I love about the New England Patriots is you're the only franchise in the foundation that does all of New England, right? You know, it's easy to do just Cleveland, and I'm cutting on my own area there. But in New England, you know, the stats are New England sends 1 Republican to Congress. New Hampshire is the last state to vote Republican. And that was in 2000 in the presidential contest. And we've got a lot of young people here, students. And young people in Massachusetts lean Democratic by 32%, plus 32, but they're really unsatisfied with the two-party system. So given your foundation's emphasis on youth participation, what do you say to young people in Massachusetts, both of you, why turn out, right? You don't have the money to contribute, and this state's gonna go blue, and it's blue everywhere here. Why would you encourage them to still turn out? And I'm gonna ask you, Josh, and then you, Kian.
Well, just like Marisol just said, your vote is personal. It's a personal gift. So you got to take advantage of it. And every vote does matter. I know a very prominent Boston politician that won her election by one vote.
Julia, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Julia. So
Yeah,
Julia
yeah.
Mejia. So, and she's great, and she won by one vote. And I think I understand that young people might say, it's blue, what does it matter? But again, it's personal. You're exercising your right, and you do make a difference because it's not just. Usually, there's a lot of things on a ballot. That we have questions this year about from MCAS to auditing the legislature to wages, and there's other races that are always going on where your vote really does matter. So your vote might not matter on the headlining race, but it does matter on the other races. But also, big picture, as Marisol said, your vote is personal. And it's crucial that you take part in our democracy.
Yeah, it's funny. Most of us aren't going to be Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, but a lot of students here took the MCAS, right? Which is more immediate in some ways in terms of federal, state, local. Kian, what's your take on this? You're the youngest on the panel, FYI.
Yeah,
So you have more standing and voice on this.
I take it from a perspective of going back to what I said earlier about policy and how much policy plays a part in your everyday life, from student loans and to everything that you do. It really has political influences in it. And so I feel like that you turn out for that, and also because maybe, like you guys said earlier, Massachusetts and New England has always been blue, but also there's competitions within that blue. And so you can choose. A lot of people in today's day and age are using like the words lesser of two evils, but I heard once that if you keep choosing the lesser of two evils, eventually you'll land upon the good choice. And so constantly making those hard decisions and picking who you feel is right is important, and it'll eventually pay off in the long run. But I feel like a lot of people who are younger don't really look for the long run future and want immediate gratification. But you have to understand that you're not just voting for today, you're voting for your kids and their kids' kids. And because a lot of policies and a lot of politicians put in place policies that take effect and that have effect for years to come.
Yes.
For sure.
I think that's such a good point, the longitudinal perspective, that over time, this will pay off. And I always, you know how they'll say sometimes like, oh, I want to get a beer with my candidate. And I think it was Jon Stewart who was like, no, I want my candidate to be the DD.
Exactly.
Right? Like, we're not hanging out. And I really take that seriously, especially for young people. You're going to be here much longer. So what do we have, less than 2 weeks? Or no, Tuesday. Just about 2 weeks, I should know. I swear it's the 5th. 2 weeks before Election Day. All of you are here because you care about civic participation and political participation, and you're coming at it from different perspectives, different identities, and as you said, different set of experiences. So what's your tip or tips? Preach. Right, between now and Election Day, what should the audience and the people listening, and especially young people, be doing? And I'm going to go reverse order, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Oof, she said preach.
I did.
Number one, what we're doing right now, talk to your friends and family. Have the uncomfortable conversations. Talk about why this election matters to you. Is there an issue? Is there something that's impacting you right now? Is there something that you're passionate about? Speak about it. Your voice is incredibly important, and you'd be surprised how many people will actually appreciate it. One of the things we do in Mass Vote is we go door to door, and we talk to voters at the doors. including the phones. We prefer doors for that face-to-face connection. I think in an age that's we love our technology, it serves a purpose, but there's nothing like one-on-one connection. So change starts with us, right? So practicing like having the conversations. Secondly, respecting difference. And really just sharing your perspective, your lived experience. You never know that someone might walk away from your conversation and you actually gave them something to think about and they might change their mind. So we have to like remember that there's power in our voice, for starters. Secondly, there's multiple ways to vote. You can vote in person on November 5th. You can access a mail-in ballot, request it from your local city or town clerk. And there's early vote happening right now till November 1st. And those dates and times vary by your city and town. So ask questions, ask for what you need, and reach out to your local city and town clerks for support. Lastly, if you have
keep going,
time,
you're loud. I did say preach.
I don't know what the time was on the preach. Very important. If you have the time, think about volunteering and supporting your local elections if you want to be a poll worker. So you could see, I know we have a former poll worker in the audience, Therese from our city of Chelsea. People that also, right, we love to support our poll workers. So thinking about like locally where you can volunteer and also like volunteer to go knock doors, volunteer to make phone calls, or just, find something that allows you to be part of the process too. If that's something that interests you or excites you. Mass Vote is part of the Election Protections Modernization Coalition. And this year, we're gonna have 1,000 volunteers out across all polls in the state. Just really like monitoring, because Massachusetts does have a good system, and because we've done a lot of good work in Massachusetts, we don't unfortunately have, well, fortunately, but unfortunately for other states, right, we don't have a lot of the concerns that we're seeing in some places, but that is something that we have to always protect, back to honoring and thinking about, why democracy is so important to all of us. So if you want to volunteer to do election protections or learn about it, that's something that we can also talk about outside, as we register folks that need to register, if that's something that's a need. But yes, I would just say, and think about how we continue to inspire people, and what is the story that you really want to say, amongst your colleagues and friends and family. Because at the end of the day, it's one election, but the work continues after that election. For us, engagement is year-round, local, state, and federal, and it does come back to impact. It comes back to like the people you care about, your community, your neighborhoods, and you don't need an election to be engaged around that, right? So this is a good opportunity to get engaged. It's a good opportunity to meet people that care about the things that you might care about, and then activate together, in your work.
I'll give a plug for Mass Vote real quick. When I moved here 18 years ago, and Massachusetts was in like the top or the bottom 14 for ease of access of a legal ballot. And now via their work and some others, we're in the top 10, hey. So that feels good, right? From a civic, from a civic, politicians need our claps, right? So that feels good, I think, to a lot of people. Again, no pressure, but speak for all young people.
Yeah.
But no, really, speak from your experience, because obviously this is something you've given a lot of thought to.
So the best tip I can give you is to, first and foremost, do your own research and be able to critically think about that research and analyze it, and then try to, and I know it's hard, to escape from your own cognitive dissonance. And that's on both sides, because of how much our views are shaped through algorithms, like on social media and things like that, and how it's easy nowadays to be in your own bubble. And so try to escape your own bubble and try to have those hard conversations and try to disagree with people, and not in a angrily way, but just in a point of understanding and challenging their views. And I feel like when you're able to do that, you'll be surprised where you end up in growth, for sure.
How did you do that? Like, I'm on my phone way too much.
Yeah.
I'm like, every Sunday, they're like, you're down 12 minutes. I'm like, from what? Right? It's mortifying. And what you talked about, all the research supports, we surround ourselves electronically and physically with people who think like this. You chose to come here tonight. Like, how did you break out of that social media? Because it's hard. I like my phone.
Yeah. So I was blessed with football and sports all my life, so I was able to have conversations with people who grew up drastically different than me. And so having those conversations, and which is why I say seek conversations with people who think differently than you, has allowed me to say like, hey, like, okay, let me question what I'm seeing on social media. Let me research this. I feel like a lot of people take what they hear and see at face value and never do the research behind it. Yep. And I think that's a critical piece of politics and just everyday life in general. And so just taking that into my life has been a big thing for me.
I'm dead serious. I want you to come guest lecture. More pressure. But that most, self-included, young people, doing research isn't Googling, right? Isn't looking at your TikTok. Research is looking, where did this come from? Is it original research? So I just want to double down on what you said and wish I said it first. Josh, what should we do between, I know you're very involved in NFL votes and you're doing additional work, obviously on top of the NFL commitment with the foundation as one of your 7 pillars. What do I need to do between now and 2 Tuesdays?
So I'm going to follow up, Marisol and her organization did great work. It's really easy to vote now, when I was a kid, it was just one day you go in there and make sure you're there. Now there's mail, online, early voting, and of course election day. It's unbelievable. And what Keon said too is take the time to talk to your friends or people you know that might have an opposing view and do the research. And it's all true. It just forms your opinion and it'll make you more excited to vote.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is sort of where we started. It is the core of our democracy. And recently I was speaking to someone from the Haitian community here in Boston, and they were saying, oh, voting is so important to so many folks in our community because when they were in Haiti, they couldn't vote. And I've heard that from other folks from countries in Africa, same thing, where I'm here, I'm definitely voting, whether it makes a difference or not, because I couldn't do it for a long time. So appreciate that opportunity that you have here to participate in democracy.
Indeed. What all the panelists have pointed out is the importance of a personal contact. You all use slightly different words, but the research that the single best predictor of whether people vote in the United States is socioeconomic status, how wealthy you are, education, wealth. And the next best thing you can do is contact someone. Say, hey, Josh, well, you're voting, but pretend you're not, right? Hey, Josh, we got along so well at the panel. Let's go. Hey, you tell me. You don't think that personal contact matters that much, but you are trusted. So if you want to mobilize others in your community to vote, that personal one-on-one contact is so easy. And it's not intimidating because you don't have to go on TV to do it. You're like, oh, my neighbor, I know you. We talked about the pets. So we get along. Let's do that next thing. So, it should empower everyone in the room. If you're eligible to vote, you should vote. If you're not registered, get registered. And then after that, you have more work to do. Pick up the phone, do some volunteer work, and contact others who you know might be less likely to vote. It works, and it's not that hard. Okay? Other thoughts? Anything I missed? Anything that you really want to double down? You don't just need to respond to my questions, but is there anything that I missed that you want to make clear? Any of you?
Get out and vote, I guess.
Yes, right.
I mean, I guess one of the things that was really touching, and I thought about that coming here, that Josh just mentioned about people that are eligible to vote, and then there's people that are not eligible to vote yet. I come from Chelsea, 10 minutes from Boston, historically immigrant community. I've done a lot of work in the North Shore area, particularly like Revere, Everett, Malden, going into the North Shore like Lynn and Salem. And I am always taken back that, and I think Ed's somewhere in the room, our beloved comrades in East Boston, Neighbors United for a Better East Boston. I have never witnessed organizing power so authentically and so beautifully done, where the majority of their membership they're not eligible to register to vote. And they are like a force. They are out knocking on doors, like there's constantly on a weekend, maybe like 50 to 60 people. They're organizing around policy, they're educating community, they're getting involved in their schools and advocating for their children. Like it's a very powerful organizing model that they have. But to witness their progress over the years and the impact they've been able to have and the power of their story, voter turnout has increased like incredibly. I think something like, I mean, we sometimes look at the data and we're like, are we reading this wrong? Like, really? It's incredible. Like, I think it was like 33% for a local election turnout where we were seeing like 17 and 15 in other neighborhoods. And that's the reminder again about the power that people have in sharing their stories, what an election means to you, and what does like community building really look like in your neighborhood. And you give that, you know, what you shape that as right authentically in your own neighborhoods as it needs to be. But it's always a reminder to me. I'm Puerto Rican. In Puerto Rico, we have one of the highest voting percentages in the country, like in the world. Literally, like again, same thing. Had to double look at the numbers. 93%.
Wow.
Unheard of, in my opinion, right?
Unheard of in the United States for
Election
sure.
day is a holiday. Election day is a holiday. They vote on Saturdays. Folks that are incarcerated vote first. You know, they're very, you know, there's like policy differences around that, and that's changed in Massachusetts, and I think it's something that we have to keep looking at and coming back to, because that also was taken away. So there's just, right, there's, again, policy. I am the director of policy and organizing at MassVote. So I love to look at, you know, what other states are doing, what other countries are doing, but it's a reminder again that, like, at the heart of heart, like there are policies that can also make voting more accessible. Like at MassVote, we are advocating for same-day voter registration. We also believe in like, yeah, what it would look like if Election Day one day was a holiday. You know, what does that mean for working families and the people that might have a hard time showing up in person on the polls? We now have bilingual ballots, right, in communities that need that language access. So I think honestly what's been said here today, like, coming back to the people, really getting understanding of who's in your neighborhood and what are their needs and how do we advocate together to create the policies that makes this collective outcome better and stronger, thinking about the future, thinking about our kids' so that one day we could say, you know, we're part of shaping that democracy and making it stronger, better together.
And it's a sign of a healthy polity if people want to participate, if they want to engage, if they want to say more, most definitely. Well, my understanding here, unless anybody else wants to jump in, is that we're going to close the event, but some of the individuals are going to stick around to mingle and chat it up. I will exercise my discretion as the moderator here and say to everybody here, thank you for bringing the different resources and talents that you have. You know, I was very complimentary and I mean it, like after playing in a big game, coming abroad, making this your life vocation. The foundation could do a lot of things and they choose, amongst other things, to say civic participation and political participation matters. That is what this, the Presidential Library is about. As a political scientist in class, I always say, you know, we joke, you don't have to agree with Erin, but Dr. O'Brien is gonna make you think harder. And so what I'm hoping that everyone listening and are inspired by these three individuals and the work they're doing from multifaceted different perspectives to get out there and vote. I'm not Pollyanna, I'm a cynic, but I believe it so sincerely. Get out there, vote, get registered, empower your communities, and talk to at least 3 other people and get them to do the same. The polity depends on that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the JFK, and please stick around and talk to the interesting people, and thanks for making it out on a Monday night.
Thank you, Dr. O'Brien.